Hakuna Matata. It's Saturday morning, March 30th. The neighbors are having a garage sale. I feel kind of bad about that, really. Fellow passed away about 8 months ago. Finally selling all his tools and things. I just don't want to go over there and see all that stuff. There might have been something I could have used over there, but I got enough crap, so just gonna let that pass. But anyway, on a happier note, yesterday evening, last thing we did, one of the last things we did, is we used our eraser wheel, which I could show you. Just a rubber wheel that fits on your drill. It works like a pencil eraser to remove stickers and stuff. Got two of them. This is my newer one, which it's getting down. I guess that line right there is the minimum diameter that you're allowed to use, or is recommended to use. This is the other one I have. They get out of round if you let it just start to chatter. It'll get worse. But they really do a great job on removing stickers. We used a scraper, which normally, I can show you that too. I use an old carpenter's chisel. I don't know where the thing went. Well, I got a larger one. Oh, here it is. What's great about these is you can rehone them sharp as a razor. And you can see my work here where I use a grinder and I'll regrind, because when you get nicks in the top, like you can see right there, you got to regrind it if you want to get rid of those. And the grinding wheel has an arc to it, all right? And then when you come back and you hone it, it leaves that hollow spot in the middle where you didn't hone. My dad used to call that hollow grinding, and I guess that's what you call it. And you polish this up. This is a wood chisel that I generally would not have used for carpenter work, because it's all pitted like this from rust, from sitting. So no matter how good of a job you do honing, you end up with the pits show themselves along this edge unless you really hone this down. Excuse me, gotta scratch my eye. Unless you really hone this thing down. And these make great scrapers for gasket removal and all kinds of other stuff. I've been using this one probably for 30 years. And what's nice is when you want to scrape something that's on a flat surface, you can put this thing on there and it's super flat, so it'll get up underneath it. And then when you want to use it the other way, you've got this action here where you can regulate how much and whatnot it's getting down in there. So if you don't want to scrape at all, you kind of let it ride high, and you slowly bring your hand to the point where it begins to do its work. And works great. I highly recommend using a wood chisel for a scraper. The razor's sharp, so just know what you're doing, that whatever you're working on, you can cut yourself pretty good with it. But the sharper it is, the less of a chance you'll cut yourself, because you don't have to push really hard. Dull tools are the ones that cut you the worst because you're pushing really hard. All right, so today's, this morning's thing, anyway, because we started doing the painting process here. We got to make sure that we don't have anything wet around here in Florida. That's the morning dew dripping off. So there's no way you can do any painting now and have a good result. So while we're waiting for that, and plus I want to get underneath and use my pressure washer to blast all the dust and dirt off of everything underneath, so I can undercoat more fully with those aerosol cans, which work pretty darn good. I can show you. Here's a cross member that goes underneath the fuel tank. So I cleaned it up and I sprayed it with the undercoat. And you know, it's something, right? I OSFO'd it too. You know what I mean? So it's I wire brushed it, and you know, it's not like I sandblasted off all the old paint, but it's better than it was. So I got a few more things underneath there. The bottom side of the gas tank. Yeah, I guess I could show you that too. Crawl under there. Bottom side of the gas tank had some areas that it was rusting under the paint, I guess, or above the paint in this case. So that brace I just showed you goes, you know, across here. So I took off the one, and you kind of can't tell in the video here, but the fuel tank is sagging a little bit right there in the middle. So I don't dare take off more than one of these brackets. So what I did, I scraped that area and I OSFO'd it, and then I just painted it, and then I came back afterward to check what I had done, and I could scrape the paint, the undercoat rather, I could scrape it off with my fingernail. So what I kind of figured out was, you know, when you read the instructions on the OSFO, which is this stuff here, all right, it says that you don't need to clean it after you've applied it. And I guess maybe that's true. Here, it's just still wet from, see it drips, still wet from yesterday afternoon. So I guess what I'll do this morning is, first thing, I'm gonna wipe this with a paper towel so it'll dry quicker. Because that OSFO doesn't seem to evaporate like water. It takes a long time. And once I know this is fully dry, I might wipe it down again with lacquer thinner, which I rubbed this area clean with lacquer thinner before I did anything. And then after the lacquer thinner, I hit it with my vibrator sander. Then I did the OSFO. So now I'm going to wipe this dry and let it sit. Then I'm going to wipe it down with lacquer thinner. And the step that I didn't do last time, I'm going to sand it one more time, because this is galvanized, and the galvanized kind of bubbles up. It eats up the galvanized, and I think that was why the paint on the other side there failed. I'm going to sand the fuzzy white stuff off. Then I'm going to wipe it down with lacquer thinner again, and then I'm going to shoot it with the undercoat. Yeah. So that's what's going on today. Sound like an old man. All right, so now we're going to get into it. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to make the handle that goes on the inside here. This is actually turned around backwards. This is the outside handle. It goes this way. So we've got this square, and I need to make a handle for it. I'll just put that there for safekeeping so I don't lose it. So yesterday evening, I made, out of an old bolt, I made this round piece, and I just turned it down to a size that I kind of eyeballed, you know, to clean up the threaded area of the bolt that it was. It was a giant bolt, okay? And it's about, what, an inch long. So I got it here at my vise with this V-block that holds it perfectly straight, or perfect in the concept of things. And I need to put a square hole in that thing to fit on that shaft. So cutting a square hole is not that easy, as you can imagine. So here's how we're going to do this. I've done this before, and it's a little tedious. Oh, this is going to be the handle. I'm going to most likely braze this piece Oh, the cool thing is that circle came out the same size as this, just by good luck. I like good luck. So I need to put a hole in that in that round piece. That's a square hole, so it'll fit on the shaft. I'm going to braze this on there, and I don't want to see the square hole in the handle, so I'm going to braze it on after I make the square hole. So I went on AutoCAD, which I'm fortunate enough to have. I'm sure there's other programs that work great for this. I drew a square that's 0.518 inches, which is the size of that square shaft. Actually, it's about 0.03 of an inch at a square, but 518 is the larger size, 0.518 inches. So what I'm going to do is drill a 1/8 inch diameter hole in all four corners, and that will give me a radius of a 1/16 of an inch, which might be just enough, because this thing doesn't have sharp corners. So I'm kind of sure that'll be just enough. And then I'm going to drill a hole in the middle. I have a 0.5 inch mill bit, which is only 18 thousandths of an inch smaller than what I need, which is perfect, because it may tend to make a hole slightly larger anyway. So I'll have 4 1/8 inch holes first, because that's the most likely bit that I'll break, and I don't want to have a partial hole, right? If I've got the 0.5 hole in there, right? So we're going to make 4 1/8 inch holes in the corner, and that'll give us our radius. And I have this other mill bit that's 3/16. That's a really nice carbide milling bit that was given to me. So then we're going to take this bit after the big holes in there, and we're going to go along the perimeter. But what I need to know is where to position these holes. And that's the greatest thing that I could think of about having a milling machine with a digital readout. Let me just leave that there. Let me show you what I'm going to do with this. All right. So let me turn on the power here, and we can just set this. So I'm going to position my machine, and I'm only going to eyeball this because it doesn't have to be on the gnat's ass, if you know what I mean. Where using a starter drill or something, because there's already, like, you know, kind of see it there. From making that lathe, you can see the center point in it really well. So I'll put a drill bit in the chuck, a center drill they call it, to position the table, right, and find, you know, the exact enough middle of that. So once I have the center of this piece lined up with the center of my chuck, then I'll take my digital readout and I'll set it to 0 on the y-axis and the x-axis. Right? So now my machine is calibrated to the middle of that part. Once I've got that, then I'll use this AutoCAD drawing to go over 0.1965 and up the same amount. Since it's a square, I don't have to put the dimensions both ways. And I'll drill my 1/8 inch hole. And then I'll come down here till it's negative 0.1965 and drill that hole. And I'll do the same on the other side. And then I'll come back and put it right back in the center. I'll drill like a 1/4 inch hole, I guess, in the middle. Then I'll come with the mill bit and shoot the whole, just about the whole thing will be drilled out with the 1/2 inch milling bit. And then I'll come back with this guy, and I'm going to start to trim. And I need to know, again, how close does this have to get to the edge? And I've got 0.1655. So I'll move the thing down to 0.1655, and I'll go that amount this way and that amount that way, right? And when I'm all done, that should fit on the shaft, or a better way to put it, the shaft ought to fit in the hole. And I've got this removed so I can easily test fit it, and if it fits, we're done. And then once we got that done, we're going to braze that on here, grind off these corners, not necessarily in that order, okay? So it's a nice feeling handle, right? And probably put this back in the lathe by grabbing onto the round piece and let this thing swing it around in a circle. And I'm probably going to put a hole in the middle, and then I'll do the same thing on here so I could put a screw in to hold this handle on. That's the plan. Let me show you my progress as I get going along on this thing. Alright, so here we are. I used my center drill in the chuck, and I found the center, just eyeballed from the pattern on the part, which is close enough for what I'm doing. And I used my digital readout to position the table, 0.1965, like that shows, in all four corners. Okay. Next, I'm going to use my 1/8 inch drill bit and drill a hole clean through there, and we'll show you how that goes. Okay, we got 3 of the 4 1/8 inch diameter holes, and getting ready to reposition here. Going to 196.5. Okay, and 1/2 thousandths is just because I'm anal. This material is really hard, like a grade 8 bolt. So I'll have to go real easy on this. I don't want to break the bit. I can feel it right there starting to load up. So we're peck drilling this thing. Wow, so I don't know what this is, what kind of metal this is made out of. And this is it's actually a stud. I cut the other end, looks similar to this with shorter threads. This is one of the studs that holds the wind turbine blade on a really huge wind power turbine. I was at a site where they were changing the blades bearings, and they put all new bolts in it when they do the job. And this is some hard stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, here's the other half of it in the bandsaw right there. That's where the threads were. I ended up only using the end of it. So yeah, it's some hard metal. Making my drill bits work hard on this thing. But so we got so many 64ths, I forget what it was, hole in the middle. And now we're going to come in there and we're going to drill straight down with this guy. I probably should go a little bigger. This is not a center cutting end mill. So yeah, let me go up a little bigger on that center hole, and then we'll put the 1/2 inch hole in it. Okay, I opened it up to 1/4 inch, and at close inspection it does look like these mill bits are center cutting, but as hard as this metal is, I don't want to work it any harder than it needs to be. So let's see how this works. Okay, it's cutting good. We continue doing that. So it kind of helps. You know, you see the chips start to turn amber color. That's pretty much as hot as I want to see it. So you finish doing this with both hands. Okay, take two. Forgot to push play. So we're set up in the machine. I got my 3/16 end mill in here. It's a solid carbide, so it'll break pretty easy. We're going to reposition for one of these corners, but using that dimension, which puts the mill bit right on the edge, right? Same as we did with the 1/8 inch over here. So when we do that, we're not going to be all the way in the corner of these holes because this has got a larger radius. And then we're going to reposition a little at a time on each side and go straight down, so we're cutting with the tip of the mill bit. And my thoughts are that I won't side load this thing so much and take a chance of breaking it off. And the reason for that is I've got to leave this thing sticking out that long in order for the bottom of the chuck to clear this. So I've set my depth stop on this, so when I'm all the way down, the drill chuck will clear and the mill bit is just coming through the end down there. See it? Alright, I could probably suck that in a little bit more, but alright, so here's the nerve-wracking part of coming this far. Let's see if I can get through here without breaking that bit. Okay, we're feeding down. We've got it on automatic. Alright. Now we'll back it out a little bit. And then feed it down there again. Okay, so we're right around the center of it, so I'll save the rest of that for when I come back and sweep the area. Let me reposition now to 0.1655 this way. Alright. So let's give that a go. Working. Okay, we're coming along. Here's what she looks like with just the vertical cuts. So what we're looking for is 0.518, and we're getting about maybe 513, 510. It's kind of hard to measure because it's an uneven surface, and yeah, I guess I can get in there this way. So I really can't get a measurement that way, but so now what we're going to do is we're going to position our bit in there about 1/4 of an inch or so, and we're going to travel to clean up the sides. Alright, so there's our first sweep. Alright, we just have to repeat that a few more times, and there we are. Okay, could have been a hair tighter, but I'm happy with that. It'll probably end up being a little bit tighter the further down we go, but let's see how that goes. Okay, there we are. Okay, that's just what I wanted to see. So I was shooting for the exact size of 0.518 in my drawing over there. Let's see if I can even do this. And that's what it measures, 0.518. Not bad. So now, loosen this puppy up. We're ready to do some brazing work. Sort of looking here with the light. Yeah. Corners came out a little bit bigger than the rest of it. Just a little lesson learned. Next time I'm going to offset a little bit for the corners. When you're drilling straight down, I guess all the kerf, the bit is wallering around a little bit, and makes the hole a little bigger. I knew it was going to come out a little bit larger. When you drill straight down that way, it's always a little bit bigger. But hey, this is great. So now we'll do some brazing. All right, still glowing red a little bit down in the hole there, but we got it brazed on there. Came out good. We're gonna let this puppy cool off, and then we're gonna hit it with the grinder. We're going to chuck it up in the lathe, holding it by the round area, with the handle spinning around. That's where we're going to drill our hole in the middle. We're over here at the lathe. Gonna have to give this thing a name. Yeah, it's about time that I break out the vacuum and give this thing a good cleaning. Same with the whole rest of the garage. It's kind of getting out of hand again. But we cleaned this thing up on the grinder. Rounded off these ends. And I double checked that we're not going to hit anything here. So I got my starter drill in place. And let me go ahead and get this thing started. We're going to drill a 3/16 inch hole. So a number 10 screw will fit in there. And then we're going to countersink it. There's the screw we're going to use. I got to cut that. It's a little bit too long. It's the only one I got. It's another one of those Allen head ones, which I guess is cool. Alright, so there's our 3/16 drill bit. Lock that down. Everything's in the clear. I normally would spin faster for a 3/16 diameter hole, but with that handle swinging around there, it's kind of spooky, so we're just going to go nice and easy. Got nothing but time, right? Sharp drill bit would make a whole lot of difference. Jesus, that's dull. There we go, we're through. Okay. Let's get this thing out of there. Oh, that's one I sharpened. It's not an original factory sharpened bit. Yeah, see how fat the point is on it? That's why it was drilling slow. It's sharp otherwise though. Okay, oh well. So we'll put that away. Now let's get our counter stink out here. This one, last time I used it, it wasn't cutting that good. Oh shit, it's getting dull. This one I sharpened once. That looks better. Let's give that a try. The way you sharpen these is you grind down the side, not the surface. Okay? When I did it, you can see my grind marks there. I actually ground down the surface of it like you would a drill bit, and what you end up with then is they never come out even. Okay, so I screwed that up. So this is what we're shooting for. See how we do. Everything's in the clear? Yeah. Just eyeballing the diameter of that. More. Oops, sorry about that. Let's give that a try. I know it's way under. God, is that dull. Tools cost money, man. A bit more, like I knew I would. Oh, great. Normally what you can do is you put the thing in there backwards, like this. When you see the countersink around the head, you know you're getting really close. Okay, we're all in the clear. God, I'd hate to get caught in that damn thing. A little more. I think we gotta go a little bit more. Yeah. It'll sneak up on you too. You gotta be careful when you get close.
Yeah. See that? It'll be all the way down in there now. See? That's good. It's just a hair, maybe a hair above flush. That's good enough. Alright. Can't even get it. Alright, we can take that out of there now. Two-hander. Beautiful. Right in the middle. Alright, so now we got to drill the shaft and thread the hole. And that's stainless steel. And that gets me nervous because stainless is sticky. So we're going to pull this guy out. Like that. God, I love the fit that has. Now we got to get this out of here. Oh, we also got to do our roll pin thing. That's a whole nother dealio. So this is how I get it out. Okay. I mean, I could do the same thing, thread this and put a hole through it, but this is plastic. I don't know. Roll pin is, I gotta think about that. So now we gotta take the long end. I'm gonna chuck this thing up in lathe, put a center in there, drill and thread it. Alright, we already drilled our shaft with the number 21. Also, before I got started, I faced off the end because it was just a cut on the bandsaw and it wasn't really that true. So I'm getting ready to thread now, and I want to take a moment to show you how I do this. To keep me straight in line with the hole, I do the threading while it's still in the lathe. And this tap handle, and I think all of them have a little hole in the back. You can use your center, or if you're lazy, I just stick a Phillips bit in there and it holds it just fine. But what's really neat about this lathe is now that I've got this variable frequency drive, this is what creates the 3-phase AC. With this knob, this controls the speed by the frequency going to 3-phase motor. So I got it on crawl right there. That's 2 cycles per second, more or less. 60 cycles per second would be normal. And what's neat about this is at this speed, the motor doesn't have that much torque. I could stop this by hand. So that's great for tapping. That's probably enough torque to break this bit, but all I do is I come in here and I just hold this like so and give this a little bit extra. I do this with 2 hands, right? With my right hand I'll keep that snug, with my left hand I'll hold this. Okay, it's going in there. So really once it gets started, you don't really need to have the center near that much, but it does keep you true so you don't side load it with your hand. Okay? Alright, so we lined up the holes with the drill bit in the plastic without the shaft in, and got everything tightened up. I pushed the shaft in. I had to use a little C-clamp to get it all the way up in there. And now we're drilling. It's a little bit precarious. After I've got started, I realized I should have clamped this in the vise where this was resting on this surface. But it's going, so We're just gonna keep going. Inside the plastic handle, there's a metal sleeve that goes, or a metal piece of it anyway, that is inside the mold of the plastic. And the metal part might actually run out the length of the handle too, I don't know. But looks like we're having success here. Going nice and easy. The handle's already drilled for this size. Feels like we're about through. Yep. Alright. So with some luck, the roll pin will be tight in there. And that'll be good. I could even Loctite the thing in there if it's loose. Okay, take two. So the roll pin just slips right through. Too loose. So I'm going to try going up to the next size that I have, which is a kind of a behemoth roll pin. But so here's how we're going to do this. Now that we've got this in there and we got a hole through it, I could put this in the hole, or actually I could put the bit in the chuck. Okay, one-handed. And then we can come over here and put this up in there like that. And then when we clamp, sorry, I could see what was going on. So we got this on the bit. Now I can put it in the vise, lower the shaft down, put it in the vise, and everything will be nice and lined up true. And now I'm going to go get the right size drill bit for that new roll pin, and this will be version 2.0 on the roll pin. Okay, we got it. Alright, so it just occurred to me after I got done doing this, I could have just glued this thing in there with Loctite and it would never come off. But hey, now it's removable. So I think what I'm going to try to do is get this thing out of there. Hey, cool. Take a look at my work. Good work, man. Alright, so we could put that together and do a final mock-up install before paint on the door latch, because it's done now. And I'll be removing the handle for the paint job as well as the lock, but at least I can get it on there now just to make sure it's completely how I like it. In there like swimwear.